Thinking Aloud. Conversations on the leading edge of knowledge and discovery with psychologist Jeffrey Mishlove.
As I recall, the Smithsonian Institute magazine in the early years of the 20th century, maybe around 1910 or so, published a summary of research that had been done by the Society for Psychical Research, and they concluded that, minimally speaking, we can't say for sure that the psychical researchers have proven the existence of survival after death, but beyond a doubt, they've proven the existence of what they then called thought transference or telepathy.
That's right.
That was accepted beyond question as early as well over 100 years ago. And yet today, it's still controversial for reasons that I think are largely not related to the quality of the data.
Well, what you're raising a question about survival.
Mm-hmm.
That is, why isn't survival accepted based on all the many books that there are?
Or even thought transference or telepathy is still controversial. It shouldn't be, in my view.
But the skeptics of survival say, yes, the evidence for mind-to-mind communication is very strong, but with regard to survival, maybe it's all of a kind of super ESP, mm-hmm. as you were.
People are afraid because we all want to survive, so could we be deluding ourselves?
That's right. So you were saying maybe the medium was reading the mind of the absent Myers.
Yes.
So even if the servant didn't mention Myers, the medium could read the mind of the servant and know that his master's name was Myers.
It's quite a stretch.
I think it's a stretch.
Yeah, but at least it's logically possible. Well, the interesting thing about Myers is that he died and seemed to continue his research from the other side, and you've published the writings of Saltmarsh, who began evaluating what became known as the Cross-Correspondences.
That's right. Mediums began to get messages from Myers. In fact, several mediums were getting messages from Myers. Kipling's daughter, who was living in India, a medium in America, a medium in England, were all getting messages from Myers, which really were kind of cryptic. But Myers was a poet and a great scholar, and these messages would be sent in to the Society for Psychical Research in England, where they could be sort of put together like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. Mm-hmm. And if you had the message to India, the message to New York, the message to London, put them all together, it then made a coherent story, a piece of a poem, a reference to past research. So the pieces put together, the so-called cross-correspondence, was a very clear message of some sort, but the message itself was quite coherent.
Many people today have a hard time with this body of information because Myers was a great scholar of classical Greek and Latin and a poet as well. So the messages contain allusions to this literature, but people today aren't as well versed in Greek and Latin as they were 120 years ago. So it goes over the heads of a lot of people now. But Myers thought it through very carefully, apparently from the other side. What better way to convince people that he was still alive in consciousness even after the death of his body?
That's right. If people don't believe you when you're living, you have to do the experiment posthumously.
Yeah.
And Myers did that excellently. Mm-hmm.